So I talked about the April theme a little bit, but then the value is spiritual living through transformation and evolution. And it's almost like you can't help it. You are living a spiritual life. It's how awake are you while you're doing it is the issue. Because we are always creating our experiences through our thoughts and our atmosphere that we carry around with us. And we all have one of those. So I think it's important to develop a trust of knowing that we are co-creating constantly with Spirit and that we are transforming all the time. Oh, cool. I haven't seen that. Labyrinth. I love labyrinths. So it is like a labyrinth, actually. You know, we're on this meander. We don't know, it's like, we're the way the heck over there, and we want to be in the center. It's like, but it's not a straight line. It's a meander. And so we need to trust that process, and have assured reliance on it, to know that if we follow this through, that something or someone is going to be there for us, that it's going to happen, that we can depend on it, that there's an assuredness, a confidence that it's going to come through. And it's like that firm belief. It's like we understand it at a level we can't explain. I can't tell you what it is, but I know it when I'm trusting Spirit, when I know that I am trusting the invisible. And I know what is invisible is going to become visible and tangible in my life. And that's what it's about, to trust that transformation. And is it like all the time? No, it's a continuum. It's like, 1 minute I can be, I don't know what's going on here. And then the other one's like, oh, it's very clear and I know exactly. And I trust it. But the trust is there. It's a matter of how much. And I want to dwell on the side of, I trust it a lot. And that's where I'm, it's like Gary and I went to the Buttermilk Trail, which is where I got my little allergy thing. But we could trust that the water in the Yuba is going to go downhill. It's like there's nowhere else that water is going to go. And water is so incredibly powerful. You do not want to be in the way of water. This earth is like, totally transformed by the water. And we're blessed this year that we've got so much. And then, then there were cracks last year in the dirt and the mud, because there was no mud. It was just cracks. So it's so dynamic, the water. And we need to trust that. And then the transformation, of course, is an evolution, a constant changing. Now, some people look at change. Well, change is constant. I think we all agree with that. And then transformation is maybe a more dramatic shift, a bigger change. It's like, oh my God, it's all different. One of the things that Wayne Dyer has told us is transformation literally means going beyond your form. So this is one form. My life has got forms. It's got cars. It's got house. It's got cats. But beyond form, changing the forms, changing the relationships that you have in your life. That can be transformational too. And the support you feel, and your beliefs, because it's all driven by your beliefs. It's that process of change, but being aware of it again. Being a partner in that change, knowing that the changes inside us are reflected in our outside world too. So if you make that shift in here, it's going to show up everywhere else. And it's going to touch all the beloveds in your life. It's going to touch everybody you see. The atmosphere is just, you carry it with you. And it's important to remember this, because Marianne Williamson tells us this. I love this. Personal transformation can and does have global effects. As we go, so goes the world, for the world is us. The revolution that will save the world is ultimately a personal one. So I don't know about you, but I often feel a little bit powerless when stuff's going on. And it's like, wait a second. What can I impact? What is in my hands? What is mine to do? That's where I can trust things, and I can work on my own transformation. My transformation, as we talked, is like waves. It goes out, those concentric circles. It'll get bigger, and it may be a tiny little impact to somebody, but then it may be a bigger impact. You don't know. You never know. Sometimes you find out because people will tell you, when you said this to me, oh my God. It's like my world was shaken. I'd never thought of it that way. So you guys are powerful. And I don't know that you really remember that and realize it. But even a smile can be life-changing to somebody. I remember one time I was in a grocery store and I was depressed. And the checker was so kind to me. It totally turned my whole day around. It's like, and this was like 20 years ago. And I still remember that checker. Yeah, anyway. So, and we do this all the time, and we do it on unconscious levels as well as conscious levels. Because we take in food, we breathe this beautiful air that we have, and we're transforming in our bodies too. And we take in, maybe you eat an orange, and the energy, the sugar that goes into your brain has you think a new thought. That thought has never, ever existed before in the form that it exists within you. Totally unique. And that thought, acted with spirit, shows up in your world. So if your thought is, wow, I trust everything. I know spirit is on the job, everything's fine, it's going to be okay. So if you're thinking that, guess what? That's what you're going to get. If you're thinking it's the end of the world, everything's screwed up, blah, 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 well, that's what your experience will look like. Now, it's not necessarily the truth, but it's your truth because that's what you set up in your mind. You have control over what you think. Now, you may have a reaction, that's an emotional reaction, but then you have a chance to respond. So I'm not saying you're like, Pollyanna all the time. Obviously not. We're real people and stuff happens. So, but it is important to really trust and to practice these principles. That's why it's important to take classes like Lanny's going to be teaching at Spiritual Economics. To practice and get stronger and develop the confidence, the knowing that you can trust this process. People talk about going with the flow. Well, going with the flow is trusting and knowing that everything's going to work out fine because you've done your work. You've done the meditation, the prayer, whatever works for you. It could just be walking down the street, smelling the flowers. Whatever has you be present, to be here, to know what's going on. Because the law is always operating for us. We are always creating. It's always happening. And if we trust that, we build it. We build it and we build it. And there's a power greater than us that we can use. And that power grows within us. And there's that level of trust that I just... one of the things that I just did recently, as some of you may know, is that Gary and I went to India. And I got a lot of people were surprised that we were going to India. Because India has some connotations, there's fear around it. And I had some fears. One of my fears was that I was going to get sick. One of my fears was that we would lose our luggage. One of my fears was that somebody would get pickpocketed, or we would lose somebody, or, all these little things that I just, thought up in my head. And then there's the ideal of what I really wanted to experience, which was to be present, to actually be there and just take it in and just accept and see what's happening and what's going on, and to enjoy it and appreciate it and be safe. And, have quality experiences that were fun, lighthearted, confident, that we were just having a good old time. So that's what I prayed about. So if you're going on a trip, don't just like leave it off to like chance. Put some intention and put some prayer into it. Or, whatever, even just your day. But some of the trust is like thinking about it. It's like, okay, I'm going to get on an airliner with a whole bunch of people that I don't know in San Francisco. And then I'm going to fly to London. So when I get on a plane, I do a prayer. I pray for the pilots, the baggage claim, the air traffic controllers. I pray for the flight attendants. Everyone has the highest and best intention for my trip and my safety. I do this every time. And then when I got on that plane in London to go to Delhi, I did the same thing. I also said I wanted to be comfortable. I wanted there to be good movies. I wanted to have food I liked. So there's like the safety thing, and then there's the creature comfort stuff. So it's like, I trust the process. I put it out there, that's what's going to happen. There were good movies, the food was good, everything was safe, we got there perfectly well. And our luggage got there. Yes, it's a big deal. It's like, anyway. You don't need to hear all the little machinations I go through to make sure it's all good. And then we were picked up in the Delhi airport by a gentleman who has a sign, and it's got your name on it. So you trust that he knows what he's doing, and that he's going to take you to the car that's going to take you into Delhi. Well, actually, I don't know. Delhi is so huge. There are like 27 million people in a city. And it's not very high. They don't have very high rises, so it's very spread out. So you want to talk about traffic? Okay. There are buses. There are cars. There are tuk-tuks, which are little motorized yellow and green vehicles. And you can fit 3 in the back, and then there's the driver. There's rickshaws, which is 2 passengers and 1 guy on a bike in front of you. There's dogs everywhere. There are cows everywhere, and God forbid you hit a cow. No, they're sacred. Don't. And they rule. I mean, they lie down in the middle of the road. It's amazing. And the lanes are only a recommendation. So it's like, and you've got all those things, and big buses. They're big buses. And everybody's on their horn because they want you to know that they're there. And they are there. It's amazing. So trust, I realized in this whole trip, trust was a huge issue in a good way, because I was going, I felt good I could trust. I trusted the elephants that took us up to a palace. They're high off the ground. And the Mahout guy, he's up in the front, and yeah. So I trusted him and the elephant, and it was all good. And in Delhi and in Varanasi, we went on rickshaw rides. And that felt like taking your life into someone else's hands. Because there's 2 of you, and you're in this little rickshaw thing, and you're got your foot against the bicycle, if you will, that the guy is riding in front of you, so that you don't fall out of this little seat. The thing's rickety. But then there's the buses and the cows and the motor. Oh, I forgot the motorcycles. There's motorcycles. Everything is all over. And this guy's pedaling, and every time you see a pothole, you're going to get it. It's boom. And you just trust. And we went down these narrow, they were like 5 feet wide little alleys. And they had gorgeous shops with the colors, all the beautiful things, the smells, the spices. There was one, and like the fresh fruit and vegetables. We were going down this one alley, and I looked over, and this cow was eating the potatoes. And the shopkeeper got irate. He was screaming and yelling at this cow, and the guy who was pedaling our rickshaw and I burst into the laughter. It was so funny, because this cow was pretty good, Because most people are not feeding them. I saw them eating garbage. So they eat what's available, as do the dogs. It's just amazing. Um, how many of you have ever heard of the Holly Festival? Yeah. So we got to do that. It's a festival of spring. So the first thing we did is the night before there was a bonfire. So they had this straw. It looked like a straw man almost. It wasn't a man, and so that went up in flames very quickly. And then the next morning, we all gathered I didn't wear this, but with white clothing on. And it's the colored powders that you throw at each other. And so you're covered with powder. And we also threw rose petals, which smelled so good, and marigold petals. So you're throwing powder and flour at each other, and there was live music and dancing, and oh my God, it was so fun. And 2 hours went like that. It just went really fast. And then I was exhausted because we had been prancing around on the lawn. Of course, then there's the food. You got to trust the food. And you also can't drink the water out of the tap. And don't open your mouth in the shower. So actually, it all went fine. The food was great. Some people don't like spice. I like the spice. It was good. We were so fortunate because there was a group of us, we were staying in very nice places. So the contrast was dramatic. The simplicity, the poverty. Although the people seemed happy mostly. They were content. But then we were in beautiful places. So you had the simplicity of this kind of garment alongside beautiful saris. And this is just a sampling. So gorgeous things. The color, the vibrancy. The people there are so alive. And some of them are trusting that they'll find something to eat that day. But they're still so alive. It's such an amazing place. When we were in Jaipur, we went to a facility at a nonprofit, which was so powerful. It's the Jaipur Foot, Knee, and Limb Facility. And what they do is they assist people in replacing limbs that they've lost through injury, through accident, through war, whatever. And they do it like in a matter of days. They mold it. They have the Jaipur knee, the Jaipur foot, and the prostheses are made so that they can pray. They can do their lives. They can walk. And in this facility, they learn how to walk again. They have gait training. And they do it on a computer and all this. It's amazing the transformation in those lives that they make. And they do it simply for not that much money. It's like we need to take a few lessons from them. And they've done this they've got facilities all over the world. So it's just amazing to me how much trust, how much vibrancy, how much life. There was so much to see. I've barely scratched the surface. But we had a great tour guide. His name was Victor. And he was always counting us. He was trying, I don't want to lose one. Oh, God, don't want to lose one. And once he lost 2 of us, and he was like, oh, it was amazing. And so he was praying, I bet you he was praying big time. They were lost. This was amazing. They were lost in a shopping center, a shopping mall. And it was like a mall. Anyway, I can talk for hours, and I won't do that in the instance of time. One other thing I wanted to talk about with transformation is that, in trusting the process, is some of you have noticed that I've lost or shed some weight. So I've done that by trusting the process, by incrementally doing what is called for each day, and then just doing it again, and then doing it again. There's a new book that just came out about it. If you're interested, I will be glad to share that with you. But it's about trusting, and trusting the transformation will happen. And it'll happen, easily or not, depending on how I look at it. And, maybe how you look at it too. I won't project that onto you. But it does, your approach to everything in your life is how it's going to show up. You have control over that. And so I just want to end with 2 quotes, really. And this is another Marianne Williamson. As someone who has faced as much disappointment as most people, I've come to trust that events will not always unfold exactly as I want, but that I will be fine either way. Because we are resilient. This is my ideal. When I pray, I say this or something better. And sometimes something better shows up and it doesn't look like it. But you got to trust. You got to go with it. And then Wayne Dyer says, trust and value your own divinity as well as your connection to nature. Seeing God's work everywhere will be your reward. So everywhere you look, you'll see trust. You'll see trust in the grocery store. You'll see trust on the road for sure. We trust so much more than we're aware of. And valuing that and knowing it is so important. So trust that invisible, that creative process within you, because you have it. And you're doing it all the time. And we want to do it consciously. So the affirmation for this week is in the bulletin. Excuse me. But it's this. I trust the universe. I am happy, prosperous, and well. I trust the universe. I am happy, prosperous, and well. I trust the universe. I am happy, prosperous, and well. I trust the universe. I am happy, prosperous, and well. Namaste.